If the new Chicken Big Mac at McDonald's looks like a Big Mac, has 3 buns and sauce like a Big Mac, but has 2 chicken patties, then it's not a Big Mac.
At participating McDonald's for a limited time.
So many big stories are coming up as we barrel towards the end of the year, but there's plenty of news right now to wrap up our week. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm joined by my co-host Sarah Lohman and senior reporter at KTNV Las Vegas, Jaewon Jung, and we're discussing a Vegas Trump supporter suing for defamation after he says he was wrongly accused of an assassination attempt, Robert Tellis' sentencing for the murder of Review Journal journalist Jeff German, and the end of an unusually hot October, and we hope it stays that way. It's Friday, October 17th. I'm David Figler, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Hey, CityCast listeners, I've got some exciting news. Next week, we're kicking off our fall member campaign, and we are pumped. This is your chance to support the daily stories that you love about our city. We're a small team, and it's actually your membership that helps us continue bringing you the best of Las Vegas. The official campaign starts Monday, but guess what? You don't have to wait. You could join right now at membership.citycast.fm and get a head start on supporting us. Plus, here we go. Anyone who signs up during the campaign gets to listen to the podcast ad-free, and you will receive an exclusive CityCast Las Vegas tote bag as a thank you for joining. It's the perfect way to show your support for local journalism. That's membership.citycast.fm, and thank you for being a part of the CityCast Las Vegas community. We can't wait to see you next week. Happy Friday, Jaewon and Sarah.
Hi, David.
Hi, David. Happy Friday.
Jaewon, it's so great to have you on. It's your first time, and there's a lot of first-time listeners, too. We want to welcome all of them as well. When we do these Friday News Roundups, we have our set stories, but we also like to throw in a hot headline, something that we can kind of get in and out of pretty quickly. Hot headline. This is where I talk about a story that's in the news. Maybe we're not going to talk about very long, but I'm going to play like a little guessing game. So I'm going to describe the hot headline and you tell me what you think it was about.
Okay.
So there were some, go figure, in election season, more shots fired in the culture wars right here in our little old state. This is a story that has lots of elected officials and party politic reps making public statements, and those from the other side saying how disappointed they are in the other side's statements. Any guesses? And I will give you a hint. The Northern Nevada counterpart to Southern Nevada have taken different positions, and the former Republican governor of Nevada and the current one have very different takes.
Oh, scandal. Is it about Seven Magic Mountains being moved?
Oh, if only that was part of the culture war where we actually were talking about culture. No, Sarah, you're wrong. Jaewon, do you have a guess?
I have no idea. I'm trying to think right now what it could be. You said culture wars, so I'm like trying to think of something very controversial.
Yeah, immigration maybe, but nope, not that. In the sweet sport of volleyball, the University of Nevada, Reno women's volleyball team has voted to boycott or basically forfeit their game against San Jose State University because one of its members is transgender.
Oh, no.
I actually did see a tweet from Governor Lombardo this morning on this.
Yes, supporting the brave young women of University of Nevada, Reno, and saying that their safety comes first, which I'm going to put that in quotes. Yes, a lot of politicians, the Nevada Republican Party has come out supporting the UNR volleyball team. I will say that the president of UNR, our former governor, Brian Sandoval, has overridden that decision, saying this is not how we behave. We are a open, wide, and tolerant school. And so there's been lots of pushback here and there. I will say that the UNLV women's volleyball team has taken a very different position. They are just playing their sport. In fact, they played SJSU in volleyball just last week. There were no safety issues, surprise, surprise, Sarah. And they won the game. And they're going to be playing again coming up soon.
You know, I just wish we could give people who are transitioning and figuring out their gender sexuality more privacy. And a lot of people do point out that they are a minority in this country. And yeah, I think that the attention we're giving them is outsized to the population, and people should cool it and just let people figure out their shit and play volleyball.
Well, I mean, there's also the position that some have taken that, they can decide what games they want to forfeit or not forfeit, and it's up to them.
That's free speech, and sometimes free speech is racist, xenophobic, and anti-trans as well.
Okay, strong position.
I think it's just kind of crazy that this is what's gotten a lot of people fired up, a lot of elected officials fired up from all over our state.
Hot headline.
It is a hot headline, that's for sure.
Definitely a hot headline.
All right. Well, let's move into the stories of the week. Sarah.
David.
They say all the big stories in the world seem to have a Vegas connection somewhere. And here's one that is smack dab. A Las Vegas Trump supporter was arrested in the Coachella Valley for something really bad, but now he is suing the people who accused him. Sarah, what's this story about?
What is going on? Yeah, this took place in Coachella, not just a festival, also a valley and a place. Palm Springs is up in there too. Trump was there doing a rally in the valley last weekend, and Las Vegas resident Vem Miller, 49, was charged with several misdemeanors of possessing a shotgun, a loaded handgun, and a high-capacity magazine. This is according to the Sheriff's Office of Indio County. So he traveled from Nevada to California to go to the rally. Interestingly, Miller is a registered member of the Republican Party. He actually ran for the Nevada State Assembly as well. And
as a Republican?
As a Republican. I mean, he's like a Trump supporting Republican representative who's engaged in state politics. Let's put it that way. So he goes to this rally in Coachella, not too far away. The sheriff's office said they decided to search his vehicle because it had a obviously fake homemade license plate. Hot tip, you can't make your own license plates. So that
I don't know. I have a handful of sovereign citizens who would say otherwise there, Sarah.
Then they have to stay on their sovereign land because it doesn't work out here in the federal territories.
Well, here in Vegas, I feel like people just don't have license plates at all half the time.
Exactly. That's a whole nother story. I mean, do you see traffic where you look around and you think you're the only one who has an actual license plate on your car?
Yeah. I feel like literally half the cars on the road here in Vegas don't have license plates.
Right. So I'm going to give this one to Vem.
Yeah, I'll give him some credit for creativity.
Listen, the whole moral of the story is what happens in Vegas also can sometimes only happen in Vegas because when you go to other states, you'll get arrested. All right?
Okay,
so that was step one. They searched his vehicle, which they described as being in disarray, and they discovered multiple passports and driver's licenses with different names. And to put the cherry on top, the sheriff also noted that the vehicle was unregistered. So here is the big deal. Here's what the misdemeanors were, though. There's some traffic violations there. But the thing is, Nevada is an open carry state. California is not. Both states allow you to carry guns within your vehicle, but the key is they must be unloaded. And in this case, this handgun was loaded, which is what led to his arrest.
Yeah.
Now Miller is suing the sheriff's department. And basically, he said, okay, here is Miller's quote. It says that it became clear that Bianco, who is the Indio sheriff, intentionally, maliciously, and with a blatant disregard for the truth, wanted to create a narrative so as to be viewed as a heroic sheriff who saved presidential candidate Trump from a third assassination attempt. And that is what the sheriff said after the arrest, that they believe that they thwarted a third assassination attempt.
Yikes. Okay, so he's saying it wasn't an assassination attempt. Has everyone by now backed off of this being called a assassination attempt? I mean,
no.
The last one, there was, they caught a guy in the bushes. No bullets were fired. The first one, obviously, very traumatic for everyone who saw that. So you're saying no.
Federal officials said the incident did not impact protective operations and Trump was not in any danger. I should also say, too, this is all based on reporting from The Hill and Newsweek. These are national newspapers, too.
Yeah.
As far as we know, the sheriff department hasn't backed down. And I mean, the first one was definitely an assassination attempt. And I think that, people are definitely trying to turn that around so that there's some heroism and martyrdom happening. But yeah, in general, I don't think anyone has backed off here.
What are you seeing out there, Jaewon, about how people are characterizing this incident with Vegas Man?
I haven't really had a chance to read comments about Miller, but he has come on our show. He did a one-on-one interview with one of our anchors, and he stood by that he had no intention of trying to assassinate former President Trump. And he said he's a big supporter of Trump, so that's something he would never do. But you got to imagine that a lot of local law enforcement, whenever Trump is in town, they're probably on high alert because of what's happened in the past few months.
In Pennsylvania, yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
And keep in mind, the assassin in Butler, Pennsylvania, was a registered Republican. He had given $15 to Democrats, but,
it's
in this case...
such a confusing time, Sarah.
Miller is saying, I'm a Republican, but so is this first guy. I should also say that Miller was just like, well, this is fine in Nevada. I just assumed it would be fine in California, which I don't believe he's that stupid. Like, I think it's pretty well known that gun laws are state by state, but also it's not legal to have a loaded weapon in your car in either state.
But this guy does seem to be someone who has courted attention in the past. What else do we know about Van Miller and his Las Vegas time?
I actually never heard of him until this incident recently.
Sorry, Van Miller, your reach has not been that big.
I have done a little rabbit hole. I mean, the guy shows up on a bunch of, extremist podcasts. He seems to be a giant Second Amendment guy, which presumably explains the guns. He has lots and lots of opinions. He has videos that he's posted at the RNC and with prominent political figures. He's also saying that, it was false that he didn't have proper credentials, and there was some suggestion that he got them from the head of the Nevada GOP.
Yeah, they had like a special pass or something. I did read
so,
that.
I mean, he clearly knows all these folks. He's out there, and there are these allegations that he's part of actually the sovereign citizens movement, which is, a generically anti-government, I should be able to do whatever I want to do and not have to deal with your oppressive imperialistic rules.
As I'm legally required to mention every episode, I grew up in Ohio. And
you do mention that. I
do mention it a lot. I'm sorry. I mean, I've just lived a lot of places. I'm lucky I've had a lot of experience. Yeah, it's a hunting state, right? Like, I understand what it means to have common sense gun laws, because when you live in a rural area where there's farming and hunting, guns are a necessity. There's many reasons to have one in your house. Is there a reason to have a loaded handgun in your house? I don't think so. That is my personal opinion. However, we know that the Republican Party currently is against, for the most part, gun laws. So I don't understand why all Trump rallies aren't open carry, right? We're celebrating our Second Amendment rights. Like, I have never understood why these rallies aren't just full of guns.
Provocative, Sarah Lohman.
I think Sarah gives a great point. I mean, obviously, as a journalist, I have to stay very objective and unbiased. But yeah, Sarah brings up a really great point, because people on the right obviously are very pro Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jaewon. I feel very validated, honestly.
I mean, that is true. I mean, if you were doing like a town hall with either candidate and you go, what's your views on the Second Amendment? Well, what if I showed you this gun right now? That person would be tackled and, taken away really super duper quick, no matter what the position would be. Anyway, very interesting. I guess I am hoping that one of our fellow citizens, Van Miller, doesn't become like ubiquitous in the media now, that this gave him the shine light that he necessarily wanted, because we got enough people in our state drawing attention. We don't need another one.
We definitely have plenty.
Plenty of characters. We don't necessarily need another one, especially in this little period before the election. All right, let's move on to topic 2. Well, a long road to get there, but at least this chapter is now closed in the Robert Tellis trial for the murder of Jeff Gehrman. He was sentenced by Judge Michelle Levitt. What happened in court, Jaewon?
Yeah, so Wednesday was an enhancement sentencing. So what happened during the trial was a jury had already sentenced Robert Tellis to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years served before parole eligibility. And because there were enhancements to the murder charge, because the victim was age 60 years or older, and also because it was murder with use of a deadly weapon, the judge had the option of adding additional sentencing on top of what the jury had given him. So the judge gave the maximum sentencing on Wednesday.
So, yeah, that comes out to be 28 years that he has to serve before he's eligible. And in Nevada, we have a truth in sentencing, so that 28 is a real number. What were some of the reactions to the 28-year sentence that you heard, Jaywan?
I think it was a mixed reaction. There were definitely some people disappointed, not from the enhancement sentencing, but from before when the jury gave him a possibility of parole, because the worst punishment he could have gotten was life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the jury opted to give him the possibility. But I will say on Wednesday, it seems like there was a sigh of relief that the judge did give the maximum that she could have given.
To give a little context here, just in case you've been under a rock, Robert Tellis was a politician. Jeff Gehrman did a little muckraking and found some stuff on him that he published. And the end result is that Tellis murdered Gehrman. David, do you think is that a great 3-sentence summary of what happened?
Way better than I can do. I mean, I would go on for an hour. So yes, Sarah, you did amazing.
There's a lot of ins and outs. And I think the thing that really struck me about this case is that it is extremely rare for a journalist to be killed within this country. It is an extremely rare occurrence in the United States of America. And I think that's what made this particularly shocking, as we are a place that prides freedom of speech and freedom of the press, right?
I am really curious because, Jaywan, you were at the courthouse and you covered this story. And I believe you even spoke to some of the jurors. What was the reason that you were able to sort of gather on why they chose the possibility of parole over, like you said, no chance for the rest of his life to come out of prison?
Yeah, I spoke to the jury foreman, and he said that up until Robert Tellis got up on the stand, him and his fellow jurors actually felt that his defense attorney, Robert Draskovich, did a good job at defending him. And they felt during the penalty phase when Draskovich talked about recidivism and giving someone the opportunity to change, that did resonate with them. And also during the penalty phase, several of Tellis's family members got up on the stand and talked about how he's a good father and a good husband. And I remember his mother in particular got super emotional and told the jury, please give my son one chance. I would love to have him walk down the aisle with his daughter one day. And, everyone is a human at the end of the day. And I do think that resonated with them. Whether or not Robert Tellis will change, whether or not he'll admit guilt, that's really up in the air. But I think the jury did want to give him that opportunity.
Yeah, well, he has at least 28 years in the very horrific conditions of prison to think about it, that's for sure.
So, David, I'm curious what you think. You used to be a trial lawyer for murder cases. How does this sentence measure up against some of the other cases that you're familiar with?
And this is true in any murder case. There is a dead body. It is always called a senseless murder. Every murder is clearly senseless, and rarely can anyone make any sense of it, even the person who probably did the murder. So people have this sort of I don't know. They want people to pay for their crimes, right? I think that's a very universal quality. But then it kind of goes off the rails of what is fair, what is just, what is enough time. It's not precise, it's not scientific, and it doesn't really have an end goal other than punishment, vengeance. And a lot of people always say, that's a slap on the wrist. 10 years, that was a slap on the wrist. 20 years, that was a slap on the wrist. 28 years here, it's not a sufficient penalty because they did the ultimate crime. They took another person's life. And it's, as a defense attorney, it was very frustrating to me, both in the court and in my friend groups, to explain, no one here at this cocktail party could do a year in prison without coming out either broken, dead, or so significantly traumatized, that it wouldn't have changed not just their lives, but everyone's lives around them. It's always a complicated calculus. I mean, in Nevada, we have the death penalty. And this was a rare case that didn't seem to be even eligible for the death penalty. So sometimes we have discussions like, should they have even been seeking the death penalty? Jaywan, you were in the courtroom when the sentence was announced. I am curious, however, whether 28 years is a long time or not. Spoiler, it's a long time. I mean,
It
28
is.
years ago, Chappell Roan wasn't even born. 9/11 hadn't happened. You know? What was Tellus's reaction on Wednesday when the judge handed down that maximum extra enhancement?
I think he continued to show no remorse
Mhm.
throughout the trial and throughout sentencing. I saw him shaking his head. And I think what took a lot of people by surprise on Wednesday was there was a moment he turned to the gallery and actually faced the victim's family and told them that he didn't kill Mr. Gehrman.
That's got to hurt them, I think.
Yeah. And, as a journalist, again, I have to stay objective. But if I put myself in their shoes, I just could not imagine how they would feel.
Yeah.
I don't have to stay objective.
As a mere host of a podcast, a popular podcast that it is.
I'm here for the sass. But listen, okay, I should preface this by saying I'm not a psychiatrist, but watching this whole thing unfold, it does not look good for Tellus here. Like, first of all, we've got this vengeful murder for someone publishing the truth about him, not lies. We've got him not only not being able to admit what he's done, but not expressing remorse. We've got him insisting going on the stand to tell his own story. Like, this speaks of narcissism. This speaks of sociopathy, of psychopathy. Like, these are pretty consistent things we see with people with severe mental illness. Not that everyone with severe mental illness is going to murder someone or behave in this way, but like, this is pretty consistent with someone that is probably never going to outwardly accept responsibility and show remorse. So we'll check in 28 years, but I don't think my dude is going to get parole.
Yeah, justice is complicated. It is often painted with hammers and not fine paintbrushes.
Did you just make that up?
Yeah, because it wasn't very good. It was kind of half-baked.
There's David the poet.
Yeah, I think it is a complicated question. I mean, again, this is the end of the chapter. He is going away for a very long time, no matter what you think.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to end it this way in paying respect to Jeff Gehrman, a life taken too soon for horrific reason, and his family, who must be grieving greatly. So yeah, respect to Jeff Gehrman, and what a sad story.
Yeah, I have people in my newsroom who personally worked with Jeff Gehrman at the Review Journal, and I have not met a single journalist who has said negative things about that man. He definitely has made a name for himself, not just with this horrible murder, but with the stories that he's written and, the uncovering he's done throughout his 40-plus year career.
And no journalist should ever be afraid to print, write, or speak the truth. So what a tragedy.
One thing that I was afraid of as a journalist was that this case would make people afraid to speak up. And that was something I was talking about with Tellus's former coworkers yesterday, because they were the ones who tipped off Jeff Gehrman. And I mean, they feel absolutely horrible about what happened. And some of them even told me they felt a little bit guilty after the murder happened. But I mean, obviously it wasn't their fault. And I just hope people who are in bad situations, who are in corrupt environments, they're not afraid to speak up to journalists in the future because of this incident. Obviously, we know now that Tellus tried to silence Jeff Gehrman, but it didn't work. His work will never be silenced.
All right. How about the universal solvent of hard stories to talk about, the weather?
Let's just talk about the weather.
Yeah, let's just talk about the weather. Let's transition. We like to make our third topic a little more fun. Is the weather finally cooling down? Well, a tweet came out from my new favorite, the NWS Las Vegas. That's the National Weather Service Vegas branch. Came out last Monday, I believe, and it said, cooler weather, it's on its way as high temperatures plummet, but it will not be a good transition. It will not happen quietly. Gusty winds and showers are expected. They're always sassy.
We could use some rain.
Yeah, they coined the phrase "autumn" instead of autumn for our unseasonably high fall temperatures. Yeah, so the warmer than normal low 90s heat of mid-October that we've been enduring. As a friend of the podcast, Kip Kelly says, summer stopped being cute, is going to yield to these swiftly changing conditions. I mean, we're going to get the horrible winds that everyone in the valley always laments when they arrive, and some showers. I mean, it's funny. You look at the graph that the National Weather Service posted, and it's like, horrible summer continues, and now you're really screwed because we're going to give you the cold temperatures. And when I say cold, I'm like 60s.
Yeah.
So cold Vegas, not cold really anywhere else.
I mean, again, I don't know if you know this, but I grew up in Ohio.
Yeah. No. Ohio, what was that like? Sarah, please go on and on about what Ohio life was like.
It already snowed there.
I'm sure it did.
Wow.
Yeah. So I am loving this. I'm loving it.
So I grew up in New Jersey. So I also plowed the snow every winter. There was one Halloween day that it snowed in Jersey as well. So I've been through a lot of Octobers where the weather just suddenly changes. But this has been the most abnormal October I've ever endured in my life, I feel like, so far.
So far.
And
I mean,
such
it's
a
weird.
Hot summer.
Well, record. I mean, if it's not the record high for the day, it's the record number of days over 100. It's just phenomenal. And I saw some statistic, and I don't know the exact number, but it was like all the days that we've been over 100 this year is more than all the days in this time for like the last 4 decades or something.
Thanks,
it's just
I hate
like
it.
craziness
Wow.
for October. Yeah.
I mean, as you know, I live in an older neighborhood now, and there are a lot of old trees here. Trees planted in the 40s that their roots are down to the water table. There are a lot of dead trees now.
I've been
So many
seeing that.
trees died over the summer.
I mean, how else has this extreme weather patterning affected our city?
That's the big one that I've seen. I mean, even my tree out back is dead. It was just so hot and so dry. What a terrible monsoon season we had, too, that it just has sort of decimated our natural environment. I know a lot of the desert plants, though, they're just laying in wait. They'll be back. We'll see them again. This is what they do.
I haven't been able to take out my cute fall winter outfits, and I am running out
there's
of
the tragedy.
summer outfits.
Right?
Third world problems.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, as a reporter who's out in the field a lot, I'm still lathering on that sunblock every single day. Some sun exposure is nice, getting some vitamin D, but it's gotten a little excessive.
Yes, there's a limit. I don't know. I think that there's more cranky drivers out there because of the heat. Like people whose air went out, it's like looking for that break that's not coming and like getting very... I've been noticing a little bit more aggression a little later. I mean, summer is always kind of an aggressive time on our streets, but it does seem to be
People
lasting.
are like literally baking like potatoes in their cars. Like I don't even see aggression. It's just like people are dippy because their AC can't keep up. Listen, I think we're all ready for a layered look, David Figler included.
Yes.
Well, that's what I want to ask is like, what are we doing in preparation / celebration for this, let's just call it the Vegas blizzard that's coming when we drop all the way down into the mid-60s?
I have to say, even though it's still getting hot in the late afternoons, the mornings have been awesome. And the nights have now finally started to cool off too. I've been spending just a ton more time, not like ready for hiking weather. I'm looking forward to be able to go hiking at any time of day and not dying of exposure. That's how I'm going to celebrate, I think. But in the meantime, I've had my sliding doors open to hear the birds, let the breeze in. I've been working outside, just spending a lot more time in the backyard, taking my time in the evening and just like looking at the stars. So just getting the chance to appreciate being outside again, even in small ways.
Yeah, I have a little doggy, so I feel like I don't have to get up super, super early anymore to walk
Right.
my dog because the cement would have been too hot for her paws. But I definitely agree with Sarah. Mornings and evenings have been feeling real nice.
Yeah, my dog, who is a regular listener to this podcast, will be suggesting that the weather is absolutely fine to do the regular walk at the regular time and to get back into the old habit. Because it's very disruptive. You know, it was like a thing where you literally look at the temperature to say, can his paws take it or not? Because he hates the little paw
was gonna ask.
protectors.
The little socks. Yeah, my
socks.
dog hates that.
Your tiny dog won't wear tiny shoes? That's disappointing.
She'll take it off by herself. She'll use all her 4 paws to take each one off by herself.
My dog pretends that he's walking in tar pits. Like, just this very dramatic dog. I am looking forward to acquiescing to my partner taking me out on hikes again, too.
Yeah.
Because it's that window, right? I mean, that's the thing is like it will get very super duper breezy. And I'm hoping that this little drop doesn't really ruin it all with the wind. But the wind is a real jerk, especially here in our valley.
The wind isn't forever.
No, but I mean, Sarah, you've been here a few years now. Have you learned to just despise the wind when it comes around this time of year?
No, I'm kind of indifferent. I mean, I think I love the sun, but like when we do get a cloudy or hazy day, like I kind of appreciate it. I have to say that windstorms were easier to drive through than blizzards. You're not supposed to be driving in windstorms, but should you have to, it's like visibility is low, but it's not also slippery like snow is.
I think I am too. So right before I moved to Las Vegas, I lived in Oregon for 2 years. That's where my first news job was. And while I was there was a really bad snowstorm, like 8 to 10 inches of snow or something like that. And it was my first time driving in the snow. Even though I dealt with it during my time in New Jersey, I never had to drive in it because I was just a teenager when I lived in Jersey. So that's when I realized that I'd rather deal with heavy winds than heavy snow.
Sorry, Las Vegas. You have it easy and your babies.
All right. Well, you're both completely wrong. I rarely say that on this podcast. I am never going to let go of my relentless campaign to end wind in Las Vegas.
It sweeps the
Stop the
pollen
hate
away.
on wind.
It sweeps the
until you've
smog
been in a
away.
until you've been in a haboob or caught in the middle of a dust devil. Google it. I don't have time to
dust
explain.
devils are scary. One did hit my car the last time I drove from LA, and the car moved. The car moved.
Yeah.
And once a car-sized tumbleweed was barreling down my lane at me. Spoiler alert, I lived. But
yeah, I heard. All right. Enjoy the cooler temperatures, y'all, and hopefully they are here to stay. Sometimes Vegas gets a little sneaky, and then it gets that last couple of hundreds in there. Sarah and Jaywan, it's been a fun conversation. Jaywan, we'll look forward to having you back.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Jaywan. Thank you, David.
And before you go, a quick reminder, our fall membership campaign starts next week. But if you already know you love CityCast Las Vegas and you want to support our show, you can sign up right now at membership.citycast.fm. Not only will you get access to our show ad-free, but you'll also receive an exclusive fancy CityCast Las Vegas tote bag as a special thank you for joining during the campaign. It's a great way to show your support while keeping us bringing you great local stories every day. And that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. While Sonia Cho Swanson is out on leave, our interim executive producer is Layla Muhammad. Our producers this week were Myron Kaplan, Francisco Kilgore, and Natalie Rivera. Our newsletter editor is Rob Kachelreese, and our hosts are me, David Figler, and Sarah Lohman. Music is by OG Moose, Epidemic Sound, and All the Kimonos. We record this show on the traditional homelands of the Nuwuvi, the Southern Paiute people. If you enjoyed the show, go tell a friend. We also like it, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts, to rate the show. It's really easy. Just hit the little 5-star. Thank you. You can also leave us a review there and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Las Vegas. We'll be back Monday morning with more news from around the city. Till then, stay lucky.